Okay, so this is the video for annotations and how to get some pointers about how to do really well in those. So as part of your folio, you know that you need to show development of your research and your response to it. So this is going to be detailed in two different ways. In your folder specifically, you're going to have a collection of your research sources that you're going to use to help you prepare for your outcome. We'd be expecting that you're engaging with those sources in a variety of ways. So it might be that you read and highlight them, or you summarize them in notes, or you do something that actually shows that you've engaged with the research. But then on top of that, we need to see that you're actually analysing and developing your knowledge and skills. So what that means is that you may need to actually think about how you've documented your evidence. Now, at the start of it, you will be showing your planning development, which many of you have already submitted for assessment. Don't forget that this can continue throughout your folio, especially as you plan different research activities or as you continue through the various research processes, because you might need to plan more interviews or plan more surveys, or you might need to actually refine your question as you get new information. So do remember that even though planning and development is something that we do at the start, the best folios are the ones that show that they've continued planning throughout the folio and have continued to respond to the research that they're doing to show how it's actually influenced decisions. So make sure that if you do continue showing this planning evidence, that you do have a clear discussion of what it's actually showing us. So just a mind map is really hard to understand. It just kind of looks like you vomited your ideas on the page. So do try to actually tell us what that means underneath if you can. When you have your chosen topic, you should have documented a whole range of resources that should go into your folio. So this might be things like checking out some newspapers or media, or going online, or actually speaking to librarians, etc., etc. Now, it would be good to see that documentation so that when you go back to write your outcome, you can actually see where you've started. Now, background research doesn't have to be as detailed as your actual research. Your analysis and those sorts of things might be shorter, and it might be something that you summarize more, but it is important that you do show how you're actually getting to your topic. So do make sure that in your folio you've got that evidence. Now, when you prepared your proposals, you were actually looking at the idea of setting up, proposing what sort of processes you were going to do. Now, hopefully most of you in your background research were able to identify exactly who you want to email, who you want to survey, or who you actually want to engage with. Hopefully in your proposal you've got specific examples of documentaries or shows or photos or whatever it is that you're actually creating, so that you are actually giving yourself a plan. Now, we're expecting that those things then become part of your folder. So if you said that you're going to interview 3 people, we'd be expecting that in your folio there is evidence of you having interviewed 3 people. Do remember that your folio is the collation of your sum total research. So there is room in there for lots of different things. If you found books or magazines, photocopies of those are really useful. If you have a YouTube clip that you want to watch, take some notes to it and then show us those notes. It might be that you have some websites or something that you print out. It doesn't matter what it is exactly, but you need to make sure that your evidence, your research is actually in your folder. If it's not, then it's really hard for us to justify that you have actually done the work that you say you've done. So please remember that we will need you to draw on your folio, and we'll need you to draw on your folio for your outcome. So let's get into annotating. Now, just to be really clear, pages are not annotations. The SACE board asks for you to submit 10 pages of evidence. Now, those 10 pages are going to be a collection of different activities, part of your research, and your annotations. The word annotation, when used in our context, is really a response to the source. So it's not just the source, and in fact in many cases we don't actually want to even see the source. That's going in your folder. What we want to see from you is your engagement with it. So when you actually get your research, we would assume that you're probably printing it off, or you're putting it into a document and you're highlighting the key points and you're making notes about it. Those notes are for your personal use, and you need them to write your outcome, find it, get your findings, all that sort of stuff. Your annotation starts when you start collecting information from it. So one of the things we strongly suggest you show is a sense of key findings of the source. What did it teach you specifically? And there's various ways to document it, which I'll go through later. Then you would analyze your source. Anyone who's done history or any of the humanities subjects will know that a source analysis asks you to consider how the source has been appropriate to your research and how the author, the context, all of those sorts of things influence the source itself. So you're talking about things like reliability, validity, bias, credibility, authorship, currency, expertise, yada, yada, yada. So once you have actually done your analysis, you then need to think about where you're going to go from there. What will you do now? What have you learned? How will you use that? You might make notes about the usefulness or the limitations of the source. Importantly, we'd be expecting that across each of your pages, you show evidence of your capability and your ethical adherence. Now, it does not need to be per source. On one page, you might have 6 or 7 different sources. You might make a table that puts all of your web resources in the same table, and then you just have one annotation for all of them, and your capability and ethics is just mentioned once across them. All right, it doesn't matter how you do it. Please, I cannot reiterate enough how much your annotations have to reflect your learning style. So if you're a diagram person, use diagrams. If you hate writing, do a video recording. If you want to use dot points, go for it. Right? Remember, you're not marked on grammar and punctuation in the folio, so your annotations do not have to be fancy. What they do need to be is clear. So make sure that you're allowing yourself the best learning opportunity to achieve success. Now, on your annotations, you're going to have a range of different things that you need to refer to, and I would be saying that a summary of your key findings is a non-negotiable. You must tell us what this source taught you, but in terms of the other things, it can be quite flexible how you do it, particularly with the capability and ethics. The source analysis refers directly to the performance standard for D2, but you can also analyze information in how you're learning. Those folios that are in the A will clearly show us that this source was useful or limited, and in most cases it's both, and you need to be able to explain why you feel that way. Clear communication of that will really allow us to understand what sort of issues you found in the source, how you're going to deal with those issues, how that helps you answer your focus questions, where that leads to you to in your main question. Okay, so there's a bit of a checklist for you.